we still part of the human race. We are still American citizens. And so, yeah, y'all take your foot off these people's necks. Take your foot off our necks. And give us that opportunity that we so badly looking for, we so badly need. You know what I mean? Because we love creatures, we're human beings. We made a mistake, but we are not defined by the mistake that we made. We ready to move forward in our life.
That's Joel Elliott. He was imprisoned at the age of 13 and spent the next 35 years behind bars. Today, he's 48 years old, newly released, and looking to rebuild his life. I wish Joel's story were an outlier, but it's frighteningly common here in America, where the imprisoned population exceeds 2 million. This week, we're talking about mass incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, and Meerkat Manor, here on What is America? Week 8, and if loving America is wrong, I don't want to be right. This weekend, I went with my friends Amy and Adam to see their child in a school play. And can I just say, the kids are all right. The show was Almost Maine at the Trilogy School here in Gainesville. It featured a series of conversations between characters in a small town in New England. Each conversation explored a different aspect of intimacy and vulnerability. These kids are doing theater at such a high level. Bravo to the whole cast. Hi, I'm John, and this is What is America? It's a podcast in which I drive all over the country and talk to people about their lives. Together, we're figuring out the new story of America, who we are, what we value, and what we're building toward as a nation. I'm here in Gainesville for one more week, and then I'm off to Allentown, Pennsylvania. To learn more about our itinerary and stay connected, visit our website, whatisamericapodcast.com. Story time. You know you have that one aunt and uncle, and they're like the fun ones? Well, for me, that's Uncle Rich and Aunt Jenny for sure. This weekend, not only did I get to see the school play, I also got to see Rich and Jen. They were driving up to Tampa Bay Downs to see the horse races, and they added an extra 4 hours of driving to come see me in Gainesville. We went to dinner at Mildred's Big City Foods, and the whole meal was great, but for me, dessert was off the chain. I had Her Majesty's Strawberry Dream Cake, drizzled with Grand Citrus Essence and enrobed in dark chocolate perfection. And fellow travelers, I don't know if I can ever have another dessert ever again. I just don't think we're going to top this one. I also want to wish a very happy birthday to Dorcas Young Griffin. You may remember Dorcas was our first interview here on the show. And Dorcas, I just want to say that what you and Cleo and Alexis and Carter have going, just from the outside, it's really beautiful.
It's beautiful from the inside. It's a mess, but it is beautiful. It's a beautiful hot mess.
Okay, let's talk about the interview. Joel Elliott has a uniquely American story. He grew up in Miami's Overtown neighborhood, which he affectionately refers to as Swamp City and Rat Town. Growing up, he was known as Lil Smurf. He loved skateboarding, he idolized Tony Hawke, and he loved going with his mom to catch mullets in Biscayne Bay. And then, at age 13, he was incarcerated. He'll talk about what happened during the interview. He spent most of the next 35 years in prison. If you hear that somebody spent 35 years behind bars, you might assume that's a bad person, or that's a dangerous person. But it's not true. Joel is a kind person and a generous person. His beautiful spirit shines through in everything he does. In spite of what happened, he is determined to make his life a force for good, not just for himself, but for others. He says he aspires to greatness, and he won't settle for anything less. The deal is, we didn't set Joel up to succeed. In his own words, he grew up in a war zone. He was often hungry. He didn't have enough food to eat. He and his 6 siblings had to sleep on the floor of their house so they wouldn't get hit by a stray bullet at night. They had to walk past dead bodies on their way to school. Growing up in an environment like that, there aren't any good options. Joel fell in with the wrong crowd. He got addicted to drugs at age 10. He started doing smash and grabs. And then, at age 13, he got sent to prison. The point of this interview isn't to blame anyone, and it's not to make excuses. Rather, it's to understand how we got here, how the circumstances you grow up in can impact your trajectory, for good or for ill. Because today, millions of American kids are growing up in war zones like Swamp City. And it shouldn't have to be that way. This is America. We can do better. It's also a story of remarkable resilience, about how even in the darkest moment, you can still turn your head toward the light. I was amazed and inspired by my interview with Joel, and I hope you will be too. Tell me about your family.
I'm the 4th of 5 boys. My mother also took in 2 other boys and 1 girl, Roland and Tavares DeBerry and Missy DeBerry. My oldest brother's name is Troy Kent. My second oldest is Bruce Elliott, Damel Elliott, myself, and my baby brother Eugene Elliott. Currently, only have 2 siblings left.
Oh, wow. 2 out of 7, 8?
2 out of 7.
7. What happened to your other siblings?
My oldest brother died from health issues. My mother died from health issues. My grandmother died from health issues. My brother my brother Roland, Tavares, and Eugene Elliott died from violence, gun violence.
Wow. And what about your 2 siblings who are left?
My brother Damel is a very great, ambitious person that regardless of what he go through in life, he pushed forward. Mm-hmm. And my brother Bruce Elliott, he's very inspirational. He's really the mark of the family that experienced greatness. He's been married for over 30 years, been in a relationship with the woman he's with now for 38 years.
So tell me about growing up in Miami. What neighborhood were you in?
Well, I'm from the swamps. I'm a Swamp City rat, Tyner, for life. Very rough, very violent. I went to Douglas Elementary School, and every morning it was common for me to walk over 2-3 dead bodies that was killed in the alley that was named Death Alley. And as a kid, we had to sleep on the floor because of the gun violence that was in my neighborhood, and the high-power machine guns that was being fired was going through the walls of the apartment buildings. So for conscience, my mother used to make us sleep on the floor, and
what would she say?
She would say, sundown, make sure you make your mats on the bed. Don't sleep in the bed tonight, sleep on the floor. And so it was very surreal. The struggle when I was coming up was very surreal. The poverty in my neighborhood was very surreal. And to be able to have just a normal life wasn't normal for me. It was the trenches, what they would say right now. It was, drugs really ruled my neighborhood, gun violence, and turf walls. So it was rough coming up as a kid. And poverty was a major factor with my family. My mother was on welfare, but always kept food on the table and made ends meet. She was a very beautiful, compassionate woman, which I get a lot of my attributes for. She was a woman of love. It wasn't nobody she would turn away that was in need of anything, housing, food, whatever. So I really get my attributes and my traits from my mother. I'm a direct replication of my mother.
What was her name?
Her name was Henrietta Elliott.
She's still with us?
No, she passed on in in 2004, August.
Wow. And that was while you were incarcerated?
That was while I was incarcerated.
Were you able to go to her service?
No, I was not able to go to my mother's service, but ironically, I felt my mother's spirit visit me while I was in my cell. And it was like, baby, I'm gone. I love you. Take care. And so when I got the call from my brother Bruce that our mother had passed on, he had said to me that her last wishes was for us to love each other and push forward together. So that was...
That's beautiful.
That was very, very beautiful.
Yeah. So what do you remember about being a kid?
As a kid, always was an adventurer. I loved to fish. We used to hustle. Like, we used to go throughout the neighborhoods and climb our mango trees and our Spanish lime trees. And so when it came time to harvest these fruits, we used to always bag them up in buggies and take a permanent marker and mark them $1, 25 cents, 50 cents, you know. And
where would you sell them?
We would sell them anywhere. Everybody loved mangoes, but everybody don't want to climb a mango tree. So we washed also cars, you know. We collected bottles back in those days. We used to get 5 cents for a Coca-Cola bottle or whatever, soda water bottle. And anything that could possibly generate funds, we did that. We sold mullets, you know.
The fish?
Yes.
Yeah.
We sold crabs.
You catch them yourself?
Yes.
Yeah?
We had fun. That was like a major hobby for me. And then my mother didn't know how to fish. So I taught her how to fish.
Oh.
And she was just queen fisherman. You
Oh,
know?
that's beautiful.
Yeah, she was queen fisherman. Like, she'd go out there to the Miami River and she'd catch hundreds of mullets, you know? So that was a good family outing, you know? That was a good time for me to spend with my mother.
You do that with your mom, any of your siblings?
Yeah, so we always used to like to go and venture out and fish. You know, I had some half brothers, Didi, we used to call them Big Didi, Didi Brownlee, Travis Brownlee. You know, they was like family to us. So it was like this little neighborhood family outside of family that we used to always stick together, and everything we did together as a whole. So
it'd be like 7, 8 people going around?
Yeah,
so, fun.
You know, real fun, like, you know.
So if I asked your friends, describe Joel to me, what would they say?
Quirky and very fun.
Quirky how?
Like, I'm just, some people say corny.
Corny?
But quirky is a more perfect word to describe my character, because I'm one of them type of guys that you just can't hate. You just, you know, it's something about me that draws people, that people feel very comfortable in my presence. And I'm just a very outgoing person, very compassionate, very friendly. Like, when I was a kid, I would befriend anybody.
Okay.
So,
what's your favorite food?
I like Jamaican food.
Jamaican food. What kind of Jamaican food?
I'm crazy about curry goat, but that's kind of like in my bloodline. My family's of Africans and Jamaicans, so that's
delicious.
In my bloodline. Sure, it's great.
Do you cook?
I'm an excellent cook.
Do you cook curry?
I cook curry.
Wow. Okay,
Yes.
maybe after this we go have some curry.
Sure.
What do you have for breakfast in the morning?
This morning I had Eggo waffles with honey, butter, and syrup with peanut butter on it.
That sounds delicious. Do you have that every day?
Nah, sometimes I cook like cheese, eggs, grits, sausages, bacon, biscuits.
You really are a chef.
Yeah, I love to cook.
Yeah. Okay, what are your hobbies?
My hobbies, I love construction work. Like, I love to build things. And I have certification in masonry. I have training in plumbing and then basic electricity.
Okay. Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Are you dating anybody?
Nah, currently I'm not seeing anyone. That's one area of my life that I have to be patient with by me just being released. It costs money to have a woman, and that's money I don't have. So women are very expensive, and
do you have a type?
I like plus size women.
Plus size women. Wow.
Yes, I'm really into beautiful plus size women. So
that's awesome. Well, you know what? If anybody's out there,
yeah,
this is Joel.
Hit me up.
Send us a DM. Do you like to read?
I love to read.
What do you read?
The Holy Bible, King James Version.
Okay. What's your favorite verse?
Lean not on thy understanding, but in everything acknowledge the Lord, and He shall direct our path.
Wow, that's beautiful. What verse is that?
That's Proverbs chapter 3.
That's great. Okay, and what about TV? You watching TV?
I love TV.
What TV do you watch?
I used to love to watch Animal Planet, Deadliest Catch.
I love Animal Planet. Do you watch Meerkat Manor?
Yes, I love Meerkat.
I love Meerkat Manor.
I like to watch the fishing channels, the hunting channels. I'm watching Snake Hunters in the Everglades right now. So
wow. Watch out. You're never going to want to go outside once you watch that show.
Right.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what's the role that faith plays in your life?
Faith is a major role in my life. I cannot do nothing in this life without giving honor to God, because I went in the system broken, full of pain. And during my incarcerated period, I became even more broken and full of pain. And leaving, I was broken. I had a situation that I encountered prior to leaving prison, to where a guard that's outrightly wronged me at Putnam CI. And a lieutenant stood there and watched this captain wronged me and locked me up, falsely saying that I disrespected him, when he was the one who was attempting to harm me by wanding me with a device that is restricted to be wanded onto me because of my health condition. I have a pacemaker. And so that really mentally bothered me in a way that it gave me thoughts that I don't want to have. And so, yeah, but God is so good, and if not for him being in my life, where would I be right now today? So, and everything that I do, I have to give honor to God, and bring recognition to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, because that will help me move forward in my life through all my struggles, my pain, my traumatized, and gave me the heart to be forgiven, not only for myself, but for others, and to have the courage to ask for forgiveness when I wrong someone. So, yes, God is the number one thing in my life. Like, yes.
That's very moving. And if I ask you, what are your values? What guides the way you treat other people and the way you act in the world? What would you say?
There's a key scripture in the Bible. It says, treat others as you would want to be treated. And it pains me sometimes because of the things that I did in my life out of ignorance. So when I became older and started seeking out the true meaning of life and living through Christ Jesus, I always contemplate the things that I did in my life when I wronged people. So I'm very repentative of that. And so I would want people to treat me with decency and respect as a human being, because I'm a creature created by God, and I have values, I have rights, I have boundaries, and I have free will. And man does not have the right to violate those things. And so I'm always conscious as how I approach people. And I'm very conscious that I don't offend, disrespect, or violate somebody's rights or free will, because that's not my place to be judgmental, to judge somebody, regardless of their sexual preferences, their culture, their skin color, or anything in that aspect. So I just know that I'm a human being. I'm created by God, and everybody that walks on two legs, speak as I speak, also created by God. And so we have rights. And like I said earlier, we are love creatures. We are created to be intimate with one another, to have compassion for our fellow human beings. And so I stand by those standards.
That's wonderful. Okay, you said earlier that you fell in with the wrong crowd and you started running the streets. How old were you?
I was like 10 years old. Prior to this, I used to be a skater, Team Bobo. And even while I was part of a skate team, we was just juvenile delinquents. And so,
Help me out. What's a skate team?
We was a group of kids that came up with a team for our little family, Team Bobo. And most of us was professional skaters, and we used to skate downtown Miami, South Beach, go to all these events in skate park, even after we got sponsored.
Now, was this inline skates or roller skates?
Oh no, these skateboards, professional skateboards.
Okay.
My first board was a Tony Hawke board.
Wow.
So, yeah.
How'd you get that board?
It was a gift to me.
That's awesome.
It was a gift to me.
Could you do tricks?
Sure. The latest trick that was out when I was skating was front foot ollie impossible.
What's that?
That's when you do a kick flip and you spin the board around your front feet in a 360 motion.
And you could do that?
Yes, I used to be very good at that.
Wow. You ever pick up a skateboard now?
I currently would love to have a skateboard.
Okay, wow.
Yes, I would try to
Be
skate
careful,
again.
though, because my brother has broken his ankle twice skateboarding. Henry, don't skateboard anymore.
Don't skateboard,
Henry. Hey, me again. You may remember when I got to Florida, I got a very special welcome. A 6-foot alligator crawled out of the swamp and into the first floor hallway of my new apartment building. I guess you could say He was an instigator, a real go-getter. If you wanted to be an instigator, you know what you could do? You could smash that like button. If you wanted to crocodile it up a notch, you could even subscribe to my channel or leave me a comment. Okay, back to the interview. You didn't tell me you were a skater. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was a skater. So somehow the streets was calling. And I grew up seeing young kids in the streets. This was back in the smash and grab days, and there was kids that looked well-dressed and well-fed. And when you're looking on these things, it makes you even want those as well. And so I hit the streets. Began my journey smashing and grabbing.
And tell me what that is.
We used to take spark plugs and smash them through tourists' windows to snatch their purse. And so along with that came drug addiction, heavy drug addiction.
And you were 10?
I was like 10 years old.
And what drugs, when you're 10, were you doing?
Well, we used to always buy reefer. Like, reefer was a thing. Everybody wanted to be cool and smoke marijuana. And then so when I started experiencing the streets, the peoples that I was hanging with, they was mixing their marijuana with cocaine. We call it boonk. And so, I used to do the heavy boonk thing, you know what I mean? And it was a situation where you wanted to be fit in, you wanted acceptance, and you just wanted to be cool.
And the boys you were hanging out with, were they also 10? Were they older?
Everybody that I ever hung out with was always older than me.
Okay.
Even my girlfriends, like all my girlfriends was at least like 3-4 years older than me. I had this one girlfriend named Lisette. She was my baby. She was all that, and she was like a tomboy.
Okay.
And so like one day I was being bullied in school. I was going to Douglas Elementary, and she was like, "No!" And she literally beat up the 2 dudes that was trying to jump me. Yeah. And so I used to hang out at her house after school every day, and her mother didn't speak any English. And
where was her mama from?
Her mama was from Cuba. They was Cubans.
Okay.
And so she was my everything.
And how old were you, and how old was she?
I think Lisette was like 11 or 12.
Okay.
I was like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty young to have a girlfriend.
Man, you'd be surprised. And so she was my baby. She was my heart. And I just hope one day that I can meet up with her again.
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, we grown, we older, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
check in, see what's up.
Just reminiscing. If you're out there, Lisette, and you see this, hit me up.
Lisette.
Let's talk.
It's a scavenger hunt. I like it.
So
okay, that you were 7, 8 when you dated Lisette. You were 10 when you were skating, and when you fell in with the wrong crowd. So then, what happened?
Well, I had a situation to where I committed a crime and it cost me to go to prison. And on that bed, I did like 15 and a half years. So
how old were you?
I was 13.
13.
I was 13 when I got arrested. I turned 14 in juvenile detention center. I turned 15 in prison.
Now, what crime was it?
It involves in homicide.
Okay. And is that a story you can tell?
That's a story that I'd rather not, due to the fact of the victim.
Okay.
So
okay.
I want to respect the victims. I want to respect the victim's family. And I just want to show support. Like, I'm very penitent because it's not for man to take life of another. And so that was something that after I became knowledgeable of the Spirit of God and the presence of God, that weighted heavily on me. So, yeah, I'm very repentant of that because no man needs to lose his life through the violence, so
yeah,
I'm very repentant for that.
So you were 13 and you got sentenced to 15 years in prison?
I got sentenced to 2 life sentences and 25 years mandatory, but it was overturned and I received a 17-year sentence with a lesser charge of manslaughter and culpable neglect for and 2 counts of armed robbery.
And was that your only sentence that you received?
I received a 20-year sentence as a habitual violent felony offender when I reoffended for strong arm robbery.
Wow.
I did 18 years on that bed.
So altogether, I think I remember it's 36 years.
I have 36 total years of incarceration.
Wow. And so you went in when you were 13.
13.
And then when did you get out?
4 days prior to my 48th birthday, April the 14th, 2025.
Wow. That's such a long time.
Yes.
I don't know. When you're a 13-year-old and you get sent to prison, like, did you cry?
Prior to me entering into the Florida Department of Corrections, like, I was being schooled by old timers and juveniles that hadn't been in juvenile delinquents camps. And so I was pre-prepared to what I'll be facing. And so, like, I remember my first institution, Home CI in Bonifay, Florida. And the guard said to me, he said, you better grow up quick because they don't send kids to prison. And being in that environment, it was the streets inside the streets. Like, it was no different than your local neighborhood in the ghetto, just on another level. Like, they had all the drugs in prison that they had on the streets. They had the same type of violence, stabbings.
They had drugs in prison?
Sure.
How you get drugs in prison?
Many ways.
Okay.
You know, people are very creative, so.
So, were you just in one institution the whole time?
I've been at several institutions.
Which ones?
I've been Home CI, ACI. I've been a Zephyr Hill CI, Charlotte CI. I've been a Gulf CI, Washington CI, Lake CI, Day CI. I've been to quite a few.
Is it normal to get moved around like that?
Not necessarily. All my transfers was disciplinary transfers.
Okay. So you were acting up.
Yeah, I was a handful. Like I say, even when I got my mind right and I started moving towards greatness, I was still in the war zone. So you can have your mind on positivity things, but you still going to face opposition. And the opposition is always going to come in a fashion of violence. So sometimes you just got to stand up, man up, and do what needs to be done to protect you. And so it became a time that, well, I wasn't predatory, but being preyed. So, yeah, I don't fault no man for protecting themselves. And it became times when I had to really, like, stand up for myself and protect myself.
And so how do you survive in prison? What do you have to do?
Well, when I came to prison, when I first entered the system, there was some golden rules.
Okay.
See no, say no, speak no.
What is it?
You see something, you don't see it. You heard something, you didn't hear it. And you don't never speak another man's business. And so, like, ain't nobody gonna fight for you or stand up for you if you ain't gonna fight and stand up for yourself.
Okay.
And we had these very cool peoples. Like, my first month in prison, I took the Shahada and I studied Islam. There was a group of peoples, depending on what you want to involve yourself in, they're gonna teach you what you need to know.
Okay.
And there was a group of peoples, if you're seeking spirituality, they're gonna shepherd you into whatever faith you decide that you want to venture off into.
Okay.
And there was a group of peoples that if you want to be educated, they will educate you.
And educate you how?
Well, if you was in school and you wanted a tutor or a mentor, there was people that would stand by you and make sure that you get on your learning process, and vocational the same way.
So it seems like everybody had a path in prison. What was your path?
My path was survival.
Okay.
So it wasn't easy for me. I had a partner that a guy literally raped in front of me in the showers, and I'm standing there, and he's like, I'm looking, and I'm like, bro, is you gonna fight? I'm saying to myself, bro, is you gonna fight back or what? Like, he just said, no, I ain't like that. And so when it went down, I just minded my business, because you don't stand up for somebody who's not gonna stand up for themselves. And he was a kid just like me.
How old?
I think Jesse was like 16 years old. And it was sad, but that's the laws of that land. So we call it chain gang martial law. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, you don't stand up for somebody that doesn't stand up for themselves. And it was sad, but that's what happens in prison.
And at some point, something changed inside you.
Right.
And what was it?
My renouncement came through my spirituality. When I came in contact with the true living God, I knew that the life that I lived previous did not fit the life that I sought in Jesus Christ. And so I had to make changes. You don't come in contact with Christ and stay the way you are. A change must come about. If you are a disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ, a change must come about. You can't follow God where he's taking you and stay where you are. You know, and so a change must come about. And so I had to face some very serious questions that I had to look deep within myself.
Yep.
Because I found something greater than man, greater than myself, greater than what I thought was, thought is, or thought will come. And I wanted righteousness. I wanted to be seen righteous. I wanted to feel righteous. I wanted God's love. And that's the only love that ever sustained me in my life. I may offend you. I may turn my back on you. I may even assault you. I can even hate you. And that's a strong word. But God never did that to me. God has loved me throughout my life. And if God was through with me, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now.
I think that's right.
So, yeah, I found something greater than anything that I've ever encountered in my life. And that was God, Yahweh.
And how did you find God?
I was always a seeker. I practiced Islam, Hebrew Israelite. You know, my name is Joel Elliott ben Israel, and so I love my nation. I do. But it's something that stuck out to me in the Word of God when he said you left your first love. And so, what is love? You know, love is Jesus Christ. I can't say that I would die for you. You know, like, I can't say that.
Yeah.
But here's it is, a person that created all things, is all things, that came to give man rightfully what's his, what we just literally gave to Satan. When God said keep and dress the earth, he subdued all things to man. He gave man all things. You know what I mean? And our forefathers has just given what God gave him and give it to the enemy. And so Christ came to give us what's rightfully ours. And so I just thank God for that. And just being honest, I'm not him. I, on a daily basis, work on me. You know, he said, be ye holy as your heavenly Father is holy. And so it's a daily process every morning. It's a repetitive thing to just give God glory, read the Word of God, say to myself, today is the day to be great. Today is the day to be proactive. Today is the day to make a difference in your life and somebody else's life. I think on life, like, what can I be to make the world better? What can I do to make the world better? What can I say to somebody that can brighten up their day? You know, I don't have no negative output. You know, everything about me has become positive. And so
I sense that about you. You seem like a very positive person.
You don't overcome evil with evil. You overcome evil with love. And that what Release Reentry has did for me. Because it was hard. I was traumatized. I entered a society and I'm seeing the same notions that I was experiencing in prison. People don't speak. People don't say, hey, what's up? You know what I mean?
So forgiving yourself for all this stuff, what does that, talk to me about that. What does that look like?
In order to traumatize someone, you first must have been traumatized. You have to go through a traumatized
I've heard
event.
that hurt people hurt
Right.
people. You ever hear that?
Hurt people, heal people, help people become healed. And so when you're hurting because you've been hurt, and your only reactions is to hurt others. And it's a ripple effect. Not only is you hurting that individual, but you're hurting everything that was within that ripple effect of that person's life. And so when I understood that, right, I understood my actions. I took victim impact. I took anger management. I took all of these courses while I was in prison. I'm a first stellar student with criminal. Mary Fitzgerald, thank you. Kat, thank you. These are people who are invested in my life, and that's made it different. And so, don't be mistaken. It's people out there that wants to see others do good and well, and there's people out there that really has no understanding or knowledge of what people like me go through, or what is needed to move forward. And I hope through this podcast that they become learned and knowledgeable and say that, okay, these people's made a mistake, but they're not defined by their mistake, because there's people that's ready to move forward in their life, and there's a barrier. Like I have this one friend that she just keep getting turned down with job applications. You know, every time she put in a job application, she just keep getting turned down. And this girl is very, very ambitious about employment. And I don't think that's right, because she's being defined by her past. And that's not right. Put it to you like this, right? I would rather be living next to someone who's willing to pay his way in life than to be living next to someone who believes in crime, committing crimes to survive. And so I don't think that nobody should be hindered that's moving forward in their life, you know, corrected their errors and just looking for that opportunity. I don't think that those doors should be closed in these people's faces, because that's a big part of recidivism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When a person has nothing left, you know, shutdown after shutdown, denied applications after denied applications, what you expect these people to do?
Yeah.
They got to eat, they got to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's not right. And I would want people to become knowledgeable of this.
Yeah.
We still human beings. We still part of the human race. We are still American citizens. And so, yeah, y'all take your foot off these people's neck. Take your foot off our necks. And give us that opportunity that we so badly looking for, we so badly need. You know what I mean? Because we love creatures, we're human beings. We made a mistake, but we are not defined by the mistake that we made. We ready to move forward in our life. You know, we seeking the American dream as the average individual. We are seeking the American dream. And don't get it twisted. There's some people out there in success. There's some people that's out there that haven't been caught for their crimes, because we all commit a crime on a daily basis. Whether we know it or not, it's called sin. When you have a wrong thought about somebody, Christ said when you look on that woman and lust after her, you have committed adultery already. You know, when you say a word to somebody, oh, f*** you, you know what I mean? You don't know the effects that it may have on that person. Now, you don't make that person day bad. Guess how many other people's day that's going to be made bad because of what
It's a
they
ripple.
said to that paper.
Just
You know
keeps
what I'm
going.
saying?
Yeah.
It just keeps going. So in Finland, they say that's the most friendly country because they treat people with kindness. I think America needs to mimic that. We can learn from other cultures in other countries.
Yeah.
You know, they happy in Finland.
So, okay, did you ever work in prison?
Sure, I had every job that the slave master ever wanted me to do.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did they pay you?
Nah, you don't get paid in the Florida Department of Corrections, but you do get 10 days a month.
10 days of what?
10 days of game time.
Oh, God.
And that's sad, because the work that the individuals do in prison, even on the road prisons, like they got this the road camp. Like you got people that go out on public work squads and they clean up the public, and the institutions, the Florida Department get paid for it, but the workers does not. So they got what they call indigents. They give you toothpaste, soap, toothbrush, right? That's it. What about deodorants? You know what I mean? They don't provide you with deodorants. And if your hygiene is not up to par, they have a deal for poor hygiene. So they will discipline you if your hygiene is bad, but they will not meet your hygienic needs. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I worked at multiple jobs while in prison. Houseman, inside grounds, food service, inside maintenance. You know what I mean? I was in some vocational classes.
And you were getting paid like what, commissary dollars? Or?
Nah, you get 10 days of game time that get knocked off your sentence. So, yeah.
And how did you feel about that?
Very pissed off.
I would be pissed.
Yeah, man, they need to change some things in the Florida Department of Corrections.
Yeah.
But the saddest thing about it is this here, right? I wore the uniform of a guilty man for 36 years. Right? And it's sad that we treat each other the way we treat each other, but what is even worse is the way we get treated by the guards.
So, okay, 36 years later, you're turning 48, and it's time to come back. And what does that look like? Like, how do you get ready to come back to society where you haven't lived for 30 years?
To be honest with you, I was very frightened, traumatized. It took me experience people's like Emily, Jakari, Kelly, Lee Scott, Abigail, Kevin Scott, Ann Wolf. People's like those who are also just as impacted. They really gave me what was needed to move forward because I still had that space issue to where I would put my back to something. I would not let nobody get in arm reach, within arm reach to me. I still go through this situation to where when I'm near somebody who's intoxicated with drugs, I'm on a high alert because you can't predict their actions. You know what I mean? They're very unpredictable. And these are the things that has traumatized me while in prison, and it has traumatized me outside of the prison. So my adjustment was very hard. Yeah, I had a hard time my first couple of weeks. Like, I was very cautious and suspicious of everybody. I'm still am, you know what I mean? I'm still got this space thing. And what's bothered me most is, like, people's alienated. Like, you can walk past somebody and they won't speak. They won't acknowledge. They just keep their face focused, head down, and keep moving. And that's kind of strange because that's what I dealt with while in prison. And I thought that the world, society would be different than that. I thought people would be more concerned for their fellow man. You know what I mean? Like, but no.
How long you been out?
Today makes 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
What are your plans?
Greatness.
Greatness.
That's all.
I love it.
Nothing less. Greatness.
Let's talk about the election. So you were incarcerated during this last election. If you could have voted, who would you have voted for?
I'm going to be honest, right? I would have voted for Trump.
Okay.
But one thing about that guy is very, how to say this? Trump has a side to him that's very cocky, right? And I love his cockiness. You feel me? But if the American people knew that he would have took the turn that he have taken, I don't think the American people would have voted for him. From my 36 years of being in prison and watching elections, and I know that the politicians, they tell you all these lies just to get your vote to get into office. And then once they're in office, it's just something totally different. And I believe that if the American people knew that the turn that Donald Trump would have taken, they would have never voted him as president.
When you say the turn, what do you mean?
Right now, America is at its lowest. We as a nation, I believe, are in chaos. It's like not only has the Trump administration has separated countries and nations, it has also separated the American peoples. And so a lot of work needs to be done.
Yeah. So when you said you would have voted for Trump, what would have made you cast that vote? What policy issues were you excited about?
Let's not, in his first presidential terms, right? He did so much, not only for the black people, but for the country as a whole. And he's a businessman. And so what I was looking for from Donald Trump is the same ambitions and actions that he had in his first presidency. He's not soft. He's not a coward. He showed that when dealing with North Korea. He showed that while dealing with Russia. But let's not forget, we're seeing a mask. What we're witnessing when we view the media, we're seeing a mask. We see this mask that Donald Trump is putting before the American peoples. But with that mask is another mask and another mask and another mask and another mask and all these hidden agendas that are behind these masks. So we really have to look through the many masks that is being put before us to identify and distinguish what we are actually dealing with. And so if we knew the truth as a nation of peoples, I don't think that the American peoples would have voted for Donald Trump.
And if I ask you, How is democracy going in the U.S.? What do you say?
I tell you, everything sucks right now in the U.S.
Say more.
That comes with the democracy, political parties, how the government is interacting with the American peoples. You know, the peoples is out there on a daily basis, man. They are voicing their opinion. You know, they're showing their dislike about, you know, the Trump administration and what he got and what he's doing. And so I say, listen to the peoples. You know, if the peoples are the government and control the government, then listen to the peoples.
If I ask you, what is America? What do you say?
I remember America when America was great. I'm going to define what I'm saying to you. There was a time in my life where I was proud to be an American, right? I can't say that I'm proud to be an American right now, even though by far this is still the best country in the world. But when my own government is downtrodden me, has his foot on my neck, refuses to let me move forward, I can't say I love that America. When my government is denying that there's an issue within my community, your community, the poor community, the minorities, I can't say I'm proud to be an American. When my government is failing to hear the needs of the people, I can't say I'm proud to be an American.
So what's giving you hope?
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Very good. And what's next for you? What are your plans?
Every day I push to move forward to obtain what was previously not attainable, to be in a better position than I was the day before. You know, we can always master our ambitions. We can always do greater than the day before. And so that's wherever God leads me, whatever he puts on my plate, I just want to be great at it, man. You know, I'm very compassionate about people. I'm very compassionate about helping people. Man, I just want to be great. I just want to be what the world needs to move forward. I don't want to be that person that can damage life or damage the earth, Mother Nature. I want to be what the world needs, man, instead of being a hindrance. You know what I mean?
I see that for you.
So
I see you helping people already. Thank you. Thank you very much. The good news is that Joel's story isn't over. Not even close. He got released from prison 1 month ago. Since then, he's been working with Released Reentry, a nonprofit that helps people who've been incarcerated reintegrate into society. This work is so valuable because in many states, including Florida, there's a big gap between what you need to land on your feet and what the state provides. In many cases, all they give you is your personal items back and $50 to $100 of so-called gate money. Now imagine you've been behind bars for the last 35 years and you don't have anyone to call. To help fill the gap, Released Reentry provides people like Joel with shared housing, employment resources, mental health plans, group therapy, and substance abuse workshops. If you want to learn more about the great work they're doing and maybe even donate, I've dropped a link to their website in the show notes below. So what's next for Joel? This past Saturday, I stopped by Grace Grows, a community garden where he likes to volunteer. It was a gorgeous day, and the garden was bursting with sunflowers. There were butterflies everywhere. I found Joel building some raised beds and planting corn. "What's your next move?" I asked him. And he said, "I'm not sure yet." He went to a career fair and applied for a bunch of jobs. He's also interested in finding a more permanent housing situation. But one thing hasn't changed. He says he won't stop pushing until he's achieved greatness. I actually went back and counted. He used the word greatness 12 times during our interview. Joel's story is utterly singular, But the forces at work in his life are not. Today, 2 million people in the United States are incarcerated. That's the largest incarcerated population anywhere in the world. And Black and brown people are more than twice as likely to be incarcerated as their white counterparts. We need to think hard about whether that's the kind of society we want to live in. And if the answer is no, then what are we going to do about it? How do we make sure that kids in Swamp City have better options? How can we treat people in our prisons humanely? And how do we help them land on their feet after they've paid their debt to society? I'm going to quote Joel here. We're still human beings. We're still members of the human race. We're still American citizens. And so, yeah, y'all take y'all foot off these people's necks. Take your foot off our neck and give us that opportunity that we're so badly looking for, that we so badly need. You know what I mean? Because we're love creatures. We're human beings. We made a mistake, but we are not defined by that mistake that we made, and we are ready to move forward with our life. Before we get out of here, I want to say a big thank you to Lee Scott with Released Reentry and Abigail Parrott-Gentile with Grace Grows Community Garden. The work you guys are doing could not be more important. I also want to say a big thank you to Community Spring. They're an economic justice nonprofit here in Gainesville that let me use their office to do the interview. Thank you guys so much. What a beautiful space. If you're trying to stay connected and come along for the journey, the best thing you can do is sign up for our newsletter. It's basically my shower thoughts, as well as links to the most recent podcast episode. Go to whatisamericapodcast.com and enter your email. If you're trying to follow me on social, I'm at What Is America Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Finally, if you'd prefer to imagine what I look like rather than seeing the real me, you can find the audio edition of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Say It With Me, wherever you get your podcasts. Actually, that's a great question. If you'd only ever heard my voice and never seen my face, what would you assume that I look like? Next week is another week, and fair warning, the interview we've got lined up may just inspire the heck out of you. Until then, I'll leave you with the Gandhi quote that launched this whole crazy adventure. The act may seem small, but it's important that you do it. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you next week.